Hi everyone! Today I'm going to take you guys through the cleanup and kind of retouching of this image, which as you can see is probably going to involve a lot of color retouch and also teeth cleanup. So let's get started. This image is quite yellow, amazingly, but I'm going to just see if I can't get a little bit of change in that. Don't want to take it too far. It's probably good. As a lot of you have seen in my post tutorials, this is the camera raw setting. This naturally pops up when you have a raw image, which is what this is. This is a raw image. And it gives you a lot of options to fix your white balance and your exposure, contrast, blacks and whites, clarity, saturations. So it's a really handy tool, and it's a lot better than any of the tools you're going to get in the image settings, so it's a lot less likely to damage your image. It's very handy to use. If you're working with a JPEG image, you can actually go up to this filter button right here, click it, and then there is camera raw filter underneath that, and you can click on that and it will open up this kind of a thing for you. So it's not quite the same thing. Obviously, if you have a raw image, it's a lot higher quality. But if you have a JPEG and you want to use the same tools that I'm going to be using right here, go ahead and open that up right there. So I think that's about as close as I'm going to get with this. Maybe I'll take it a little lower. And now let's work on exposure. Those grimy teeth, gonna have to clean those up quite a bit. I want to kind of keep the striking contrast in this, so I don't want to mess with this too much. We'll leave it right about there, just a little less. Highlights I'll put lightly lower because I kind of like having those shadows right here kind of show up. Kind of gives it that ambiance. Actually going to pull shadows down quite a bit on this bar. I'm going to leave these two bars alone for this one, and I might bring that up just a bit. Alright, so I think this is where I'm going to leave my bars for this image. We might have completely different needs for your image depending on what it is, but let's say open image. So there is a crap load of cleanup that needs to be done on these teeth, and also some straightening, stuff like that. I mean, you don't necessarily have to do straightening, but for this image I want to do some straightening. So I'm going to be teaching you quite a bit of that in this tutorial, and just kind of showing you how to kind of make the teeth look a little bit more orderly. So I'm going to zoom in on this. Oh, yuck. Alrighty, let's get started on this. I'm going to use my spot healing tool over here, and I'm just going to start removing the grime, gunk, whatever, yuck. There we go. I'm using my bracket tools to make the brush size smaller or bigger, and I'm just going to start removing this stuff. Let's actually back that up a few because it's getting a little too close on that edge, and I don't want it bringing in color from the outside. Another way you can do this is if you're having trouble getting edges fixed up using this tool, you can actually go in with your stamp tool and kind of move colors around, or you can also go up here and touch your eyedrop tool, and I'm going to be using some of those again later. And you can grab the color you want, and then you can go to your brush tool right there, and you can brush over things. So actually, let's do that a little bit. Let's grab right there. There we go, that's better. And this is just primary cleanup. There's going to be a lot more we have to do here. So I'm actually going to grab this color right here. Then use my brush tool again and go into this little crevice. Just kind of lighten that area up a bit. It's like doing dentistry work with Photoshop. Grab that. There we go. Now I'm going to go in and actually I'm going to probably use this to get rid of that. There we go. That's gone. That's the major grime I see in this image. Maybe you could actually get rid of that right there. Now we have to do a lot of straightening, and then we're going to go in and do a lot of color fixing too. So let's go ahead and go up to Filter, Liquify, and now we can go in and just start to kind of adjust the teeth using my Control Plus to zoom in here and kind of straighten them out. So for this one, as you can see, this tooth right here is a little chipped. I'm going to just kind of lower that. It's also, the teeth are, this tooth is slightly slanted into this tooth. So we're going to move it this way. That you can already start to see that's quite a bit of change. Now I'm debating whether or not I should say okay right now, because you don't want to do a lot of changes quickly in Liquify, because if you make a mistake you can't really go back. So it might be good to say okay, make sure that those changes are solidified, then go back in with Liquify again and just start working on it again. That way you kind of you make saves as you go that you can go back to if something goes wrong. Kind of lower this tooth a bit. Bring this one in. And this one. Obviously we have a little bit of a gap here. I'm not sure if I'm going to be able to clean that up super easily. Let's make this slightly bigger now. Alrighty. Now down here we've got this one that's kind of sliding in on this one. So we're going to shorten that one right there and then kind of pull this down. And kind of get in close on that one and pull that one up a bit. That's starting to help these ones down here. Let's click OK again. And this might be good for now. We might do a few changes further along, but I think I'm going to try and work with this. So one thing I want to do is I kind of want to close that gap still. To do that though, I'm going to use just the tippy edge of this tooth's color and grab my brush tool and just kind of go in there and just start kind of washing that broken edge away. So the darkest color we're going to have in there is the edge of the tooth, which makes the tooth look a little more filled in. So as you can see, it goes from there to there. So now that tooth is a lot more filled in. Things are starting to look a lot better. Another area where we can do this is I'm going to take my tool drop tool again and just get some color right here. I'm going to fill in that chip right there. So there we go. That looks a bit better. We can also do that right here. Oops, that's a little too far. In fact, I'm going to zoom in a bit, just so I have a little more control over these areas. Go. Oops, a little too much. I'm going to make this slightly higher because I can't do as many strokes. It's got a little dangerous touchy here. Oh, there we go. Now we can do that with this one. Oops, no, wrong color. We're gonna need a darker color. How about that? Okay. So those little spots are starting to heal up. I think we're kind of good down on the lower rungs. Another area, I'm going to just try and fill in that bit of a gap right there, and maybe this edge over here. So I'll grab this color and just start to kind of fill in this area. That's better. Now I'll grab this area, start to fill in this area. I feel like this brush might be a little too hard. Yeah, hardness is a bit high, so I'm going to reduce that quite a bit now and just kind of try and fluff up these edges a bit. Okay, let's back up. That one might need a bit more work in the filter tool. So I'm going to go back into Camera Raw. Zoom in on that one. Oh, sorry. Cancel, not Camera Raw. We're going to go back in with Liquify. Sorry, I'm a little sleepy today. And I'm going to go in here, just kind of touch this up a bit. Doing a little bit more straightening in here. So one other thing I'm going to do is I'm going to just grab some mouth color and kind of trim off that sharp edge that was right there. That looks way better. Okay, so the teeth have come quite a ways. Now we probably want to do a bit more whitening on them. Let's take a look here. Yeah, I want to do a bit more whitening. So I'm going to grab a color. That's the color we got. And I'm going to slide it up this way on the color picker. See, I clicked right there, got the color picker up, it was right around here, and I'm sliding it up this way. Now let's see what that does. So now we have our color cover tool. Let's bring the opacity down quite a bit. Make the brush bigger. Let's just see what happens. See, even though it's not white, it brightens the teeth up quite a bit. So if we just very carefully cover up all the teeth areas. Now to do this you might want to just brush over the entire teeth area and get a little sloppy and then go back in afterwards and kind of touch up around where you overbrushed, because you don't want to brush multiple times over the teeth or else you're going to make the color uneven. You can also kind of use your history brush or your masks and layers to reduce how much that whiteness is and where it is. So again, I'm just going to be sloppy here. Brush over these. Gonna get reduced quite a bit. Okay, so I like to use my history brush, but if you're using a layer over here, go ahead and use your reduction white and black tools to kind of shift things around. So I've got my history brush selected. Go back to liquefy. Let's see. What was that? Oh, never mind. Actually, I want to go back to this point. And so I reselect my latest spot, but I move the history tool brush to right there. And now I'm just going to, actually right there, right before all this happened. I'm just going to go through. 100% is quite a bit. Let's turn that down. Just kind of brush it away. Just kind of painting it away. Maybe you could slide up those sections right there. We'll see. Actually, I might back up on that move. Do all this first and then decide what I'm going to do down the crevices. This one I'm going to reduce the whole thing quite a bit. Go in along these edges. Maybe slide up around the back. Make the brush a bit bigger so it kind of has a bit more feather. I'll slide through those, kind of bring the effect down a bit. Just kind of cover. Now I'm going to slide down these kind of crevices. Let's see what that does. Looks a bit more natural. There we are. So I noticed this tooth here is a little bit bigger, so I'm actually going to go in quickly again with my filter tool. Or sorry, my liquefy filter tool. And I'm just going to try and reduce the size of that tooth. I'm going to try this tool for starters. I'm not sure if it's going to work, but we'll see. That worked. Maybe make it a little bit smaller now. Kind of bring the upper edge down. And again, I think I'm going to go in with this tool. Move things. So we might do a bit more whitening stuff later when we get into the image's color work, but let's see what we've got for now. One thing I actually am going to do, I'm going to take some of this color and just brush over the entire tooth a bit. I just want to kind of reduce some of these glints and stuff like that. Kind of evens out the tooth's color. Makes it not so chipped looking. Now you have to be careful about how far you bring this effect across teeth because they will be different colors depending on where they are in the image. Maybe I'll grab a little of this, bring it over here. I'm actually going to go through with my spot healing tool too. We just try and remove a little of that. Just reduce it quite a bit. And maybe up here in the gums. So there's still a little bit of it, but it's reduced. Actually found one more tooth I want to fix. This is the thing, you're going to go through with this liquefy tool and be like, oh, I want to do this too. I'm going to pull that tooth down a little bit over. There we go. That's looking a lot better. So just to give you guys like kind of a handle on what this looked like beforehand, we can go back to our start. And that's what it looked like. So between there and now, this is what we have. And that's what it looked like beforehand. So you can do quite a bit with this tool, even on dirty teeth, and make things look better. I do think I'm going to go through with a bit of a burn tool. Shadows. Let's just see. Just kind of move over these areas. That's a bit too much movement or too much contrast being added, but I'm just using the burn tool a little bit just to add a little bit more of that detail to the teeth again. Keep things looking natural. So that works. So now it's time to start editing our color. And start by going in with adjustments, selective color, my favorite tool. So in this image, sorry, if you have never used selective color before, selective color has all of the different color spectrums you can find in your image available. That means not only your reds, your yellows, greens, cyans, blues, magentas, but also your whites, neutrals, and blacks. I find that really useful because it gives you a heck of a lot more control than the other tools in the process. It also, I find, is very mild on colors. It's not very aggressive at changing the tone of the color, so it won't make them brighter or darker like a lot of the other tools in Photoshop will. So I really love this tool. And the way I use it is I usually go through the colors I see in my image and I just make little tweaks. So I'm going to start with my reds. And in here you'll see cyan, magenta, yellow. Well, cyan and red are always opposites, so if I add cyan, I'm adding cyan, but if I decrease cyan, I'm adding red. Now that's the same with magenta and green, and yellow and blue. And then obviously black and white. So the opposites are the same. So let's start. I'm looking at the reds I have. Obviously the major red I have in this image is the lips and the gums. So let's see what we get. We also might want to go in at some point and do some selected changes between the lips and the gums. So like I might go in and just try to affect the lips and then go back through and reduce the effect on the gums. I think I'm going to add slightly less. Just for now, I'm selecting for the gums. I think that's where I'm going to leave the gums. Actually, maybe lighter. Yeah, right around there. Now with our yellows, we have quite a bit of yellow in this image. If you see, I'm just moving between the blues and yellows. You can see quite a bit of change happening all across the image. I think I'm going to try and reduce it a bit, make it a little more stark looking. This is totally going to depend on what your image is and what you're working on. If you're working on my image, obviously you can follow along with my my measurements on this. But the reason I made these changes is I'm trying to kind of draw the yellows out. I'm going to try and focus the color on the mouth in this image. So after that, we might have a little blue or cyan in this image. I'm not sure. I'm not seeing any cyan. This fabric around the face might be keyed as gray right now, so like a pure neutral. Yeah, and that's what I'm finding. I'm pretty sure that that's just keying as pure neutral. So now we get to go down to our neutrals, and these are fun because you can actually affect the way your image is going to look in the shadows and the highlights. See, I could like add, you can't see whites very well in this image, but if I add a little yellow, it's actually showing up in the lip right here, in those highlights. Let's go to neutrals, and when you affect your neutrals, as you can see, it's drastic, because pretty much this whole image is made up of neutral gray colors. I think I'm actually going to put it right about there, just slightly lower on the yellows, kind of make this show up even more. And in our blacks, I actually might go slightly more cyan on the blacks, but for now I'm going to keep it slightly neutral, or more neutral than I want to go with that, and I'm going to click OK. So now what I'm going to do is I'm going to select color for the lips, and then I'm going to reduce that from the gums. So we're going to go back in, image, adjustments. Actually, I'm going to try hue and saturation this time. So to do that, actually, I want to go in with reds. Maybe play up the reds a bit to start. I'm going to click OK, and then I'm going to go in with selective color again. And I'm going to darken those reds a bit and increase them by downing the cyans. Up the magenta a bit. And let's call that good. So now I get to go back in with my history tool, my history brush, or if you're using your layers, you can go ahead and use your layer masks. And I'm gonna go back, excuse my voice here, to selective color. So now that I have selective color selected again, this was before I made all those changes. I'm going to go through, I've got that selected, I'm back to my latest movements, and I'm just going to start to brush that out, but I'm going to actually increase the opacity all the way. Let's see how this looks. I might not like how it ends up looking. We'll see. I don't know, that works. It definitely gives it more of a lipstick look. So now that that's done, I'm actually going to go back in, or actually, let me just touch this up. I have a feeling, yeah, that got affected a bit. So let's just brush around the lips a little. Yeah, get rid of all that. Yeah, actually that makes it look way better having that color removed from right there. Alrighty, actually maybe up here too. I'm gonna make my brush bigger. There we go. So yeah, if we look back from there to there, let's see, from here to here, that looks way better. So now I'm going to go back in with the selective color, and as you see, I'm kind of creating layers in a way with my selective color by making shifts slowly. So I knew that I wanted to make the lips redder, which means I didn't want to do the cyan changes I wanted to do while I was doing the lips, because I was going to be removing that color from the rest of the image. So now that I'm back in with selective color, I'm going to go back to my blacks. And oh yeah, look at that. Now we get to have a little bit of fun with that. I'm liking it right about there, I think. And let's go back in with the neutrals. Maybe we can even adjust kind of between. Nah, let's leave those right where they were. Back in with the reds. Now that we have a little bit more control, we can have some real fun. This kind of has me thinking maybe it'd be kind of fun to make the teeth of vampires. Vampire teeth. Let's see. So I'm liking that right about there. I'm actually going to have a little bit of fun with that and go in with liquefy again. Now this is fun. When you have an open mouth like this with teeth, you can do anything you want to them. I've made people have shark teeth, I've given people vampire teeth, I've given them orc mouths, whatever. You can have a ton of fun with it. Alrighty, so I'm going to make this brush a little bit smaller. And I believe it's these little canines right here along the edge that I want to sharpen. See how easy that was? Boom. That one didn't quite work out the same way. Let's do a few little adjustments. screwing these up so bad. Okay, I'm gonna zoom in a little. Oh, there. Yeah. Okay, I might clean these up a little bit. I might actually gloss that one a little more too. That one's so sweet looking. Let's see. Maybe make these slightly bigger. That one looks good. Okay. Now, with a vampire's mouth, we might want to shorten these up a little bit. Okay, that's looking good. Maybe slightly longer. I'm gonna say okay. This one I think needs a lot of work. It looks a little funky. This one looks great. So I'm gonna go in, maybe take some, I'm gonna darken this one up a bit. For some reason that one was just glowing a little bit in the image. So maybe I'll go in with my burn tool. We'll see how this works. It might not be a good tool for this. This is what it's all about, experimentation. And I'm going to just kind of try and reduce the brightness on that one a little. Maybe I'm actually going to take some glow spots off of that one so I can use my stamp tool over here. So Alt click, and I can just like add that one on there. Oops, not enough opacity. We want full opacity. There we go. And now what I'm going to do with that, actually maybe I'm going to get a dodge tool, highlights. Let's ramp this up quite a bit. Oops. So now I think I'm actually going to go back in with the liquify tool, zoom in on those little spots I added, and just kind of mess with them a little bit to distort them so that they're not replica, it's not a replica of the other side. Looking a little better. A little pearlescent, aren't they? Use my burn tool again. Maybe go back in with my darks. Just kind of burn in these edges a little bit. That's a little too much. Let's back up now. It's getting close, but I'm sticking a little bit of shifting I want to do here. So back in with the liquify filter. Zoom in. Yeah, there's just a little bit of shape issue there I want to fix. I want to have it be a little more bulbous like that one is on that edge. So we've got our drag tool. Helps a little bit. So now the last thing I want to try and do is I think I want to make sure that these teeth are still kind of in tone with these teeth. So I'm going to go in, grab some color, maybe off of this guy, and just kind of, see, make sure this isn't too high. Brush over these guys. And I'm thinking that's too dark of a color. I'm gonna go maybe grab one of the brighter teeth then. Not sure if I'm happy with that yet. This might take a few moments of experimentation. Let's grab this guy right there. I'm going to try a little bit more burning over these areas. I think that's helping. Now, one last thing I'm going to do is this tooth just feels a little sharp. I think I want it to be slightly less sharp. Just, and by sharpness I mean, you know, how much blur there is over it. Too sharp. So I think that's helping a bit. I think I'm getting happy with that. Let's see. That's looking pretty cool. I'm gonna just go in. One of my favorite tools to use last is color balance. So in color balance, one of the major things you need to remember between color balance and selective color is selective color will not move the tone of your hues, so it will not change the shadow amounts like brightness or darkness in it, but color balance will. So if you go to the highlight section of color balance, it will brighten things as it affects the image. If you go to the shadows, it will darken things, and if you go to the midtones, it will kind of mediate things. So that's just one thing to remember, but I kind of like it because you can add a little bit of extra contrast while making shifts sometimes. So that's actually kind of fun. I'm kind of liking adding a bit more magenta into this image at the end. That's really cool. On the bright end, yeah, maybe add a little more reds to the brights. Maybe in the medians. That's great. I'm really liking that. So it went from there to there. I'm actually really happy with this image now, I think. The one last thing I might do is do a little bit of cropping. We'll see. So to crop, you can go up and grab your crop tool right here, and you can just slide these around, or if you have an older version of Photoshop, there's other, you'll figure it out. Same deal, different tools. I actually might like the image up in this direction. I think I'm okay with that. Let's see if I move it this way. Maybe move it up like that. I don't know. Maybe I'm okay with the whole image. I'm gonna say cancel. Yeah, I'm liking that. Alright, so there is one last thing I'm gonna do in this image, and that's just a tiny bit more cleanup on the teeth. Mostly trying to kind of dash out these dark spots here and there across the teeth. So to do that, I'm going to go ahead, get my dropper tool one last time. Oop, dropper tool, there we are. Grab that color, just the general color of the teeth. Then I get my brush tool, and I'm going to zoom in a bit, so you have a little bit more control. And I'm just going to kind of dash it over the light and dark spots of the teeth. Maybe a little bit more right here. There we are. Now hit this one. It's just trying to kind of push those dark spots more to the inner edge. There we go. The last area I'm going to touch up are these teeth. On the edge. Just kind of add a little bit more of the similar toning to them. Slide over these. Just to kind of wash them out a bit. There we go. So, we started there, and now we are there. Alright, so that is it. So, just a little bit of cleanup. So if we go way back to the very start, we start here, and we go to there. Again, just kind of showing that we straightened, cleaned, whitened, and recolored the image. There we are. Alright, thank you for watching this tutorial slash walkthrough, and I will see you guys in more walkthroughs and tutorials in the future. Enjoy!